Okay, what's up, people? I am back for another video. We are continuing on with the Bond movies. Basically, I only got like three more. I guess two, because we already did Skyfall. Then we have Spectre next week, and then No Time to Die, which I'm gonna be honest, I am dreading. But I will say about Skyfall, it's way better than Quantum of Solace. I gotta be honest. This one actually felt like a Bond movie. They let Daniel Craig actually showcase his charm this one. M was M in this. Yeah, Judi Dench dies, but I think her death was very well done. Ralph Fiennes ends up becoming the new M as Gareth Taylor. I think that's his character's name. He was great. The new Q was good. I think I was a little iffy when I saw a picture of him, but then I'm like, in the movie, he's great. Him and Bond, their chemistry. It's like, it kind of shows me that they probably should have brought in Q last movie, not this one. But this movie is kind of what Quantum of Solace should have been. Bond's well moved on now from Vesper. He's doing missions. That opening scene in Istanbul was cool. Monty Penny, like, you have like actual Bond characters in the movie. Raul Silva, I think is the villain's name. He was pretty good. He wasn't like Mads Mikkelsen level, but he was pretty good. He at least had a presence. That whole chase into the subway station was really good, leading into that attack at the I think embassy. It was some kind of courtroom, Parliament. That's what it was. It was Parliament. I really loved this one. Actually felt like a Bond movie. Like, that's really all I could say. Like, they let Craig actually have fun with this one. He was quippy. He wasn't just they weren't like trying to make him just super serious. The Bond girl, Monty Penny, I think they could have got a better actress, to be honest. And then Severus, I think is her name, who's the other girl who gets killed pretty early on. She was fine, but she should have lasted longer. But aside from that, the action was good. The music, I'm not a big Adele fan. I'll say it like right now. I don't actively like listen to Adele, but I gotta say her Bond song Skyfall was really good. It had that like old school Bond like theme sound to it. I love the fight at Bond's house, very Home Alone-y. I think in general, a lot of the action scenes were good. All these people dying, and we find out it's Silva, who basically just wants revenge on him for essentially, in his words, turning on him and leaving him for dead, basically, and giving him up to the Chinese. So you have, like, this, someone from him's past, Q being brought and bringing in some tech, like, you have, like, this feels like Bond. Like, this is what the last film, I'm gonna say it again. I know I'm gonna repeat myself a lot, but it's like, they should have just did this last movie. Like, it's so insane to me, like, how easier it was if they had just did this. Granted, I wouldn't mind have seen Felix Leiter come back, but it was cool seeing Q being brought in, and I actually thought he was really good. Like, he's some of my favorite scenes in the movie. Just his little banter with Bond when Bond's going through the substation is fucking awesome. The Astro Martin being destroyed is kind of sad, but I did like the final. The only thing, I do think a little bit, that final act was a little rushed. Like, Bond kills Silva, and then M dies. I'm cool with M dying. I think, Judi Dench is M. I mean, she's been around a long time. It makes sense, obviously, going in with the new M. And Ralph Fiennes being in. I hope he comes back in Spectre. Because, to be honest, I really liked his character. I was thinking he was going to be a bad guy. I'm not going to lie. I was thinking he was going to be a bad guy, but he becomes the new M. I'm okay with that, because Ralph Fiennes is such a good actor. He makes sense. He's someone who, like, probably should have been in a Bond movie for a long-ass time ago. But the biggest thing, like, I'm going to say it again, they let Craig showcase his charisma. Because last movie, how much he was so hindered, because they were like, you have to just be super serious this whole movie. This one, they let him, like, he has the banter. There's moments where I actually laughed. Like, especially some of his banter with Q. It's like, okay, we actually have a Bond. He's flirting. He's, the life of the party. He's like, even in the middle of action scenes, he's like joking around. He's not just super serious. And I think it's like, because I've said this in the last video, I think Craig could be a good Bond. It's just they didn't let him show it in the last movie. They were like, you gotta be super fucking serious. And it hurt him. Because I think now being him in this, it's like he gets to actually showcase his skill as Bond. Another thing, this movie is way better edited. Like, it actually feels like a movie. One of my big problems with Quantum of Solace is how much the plot didn't really seem like there was any actual, like, flow to it, or cohesion. It just seems kind of happened. At least this one, they very much were like, okay, we're going to actually, it was like, yeah, this one actually has a plot, and it's not just scenes put together. And I think even like with the fight, like the close quarters fighting, I actually think they definitely dialed it back with the Bourne stuff. It actually had more of a Bond style. It didn't have that jump cut shit. It was edited, because like, I love Jason Bourne, but that's not what Bond's supposed to be. Bond should not just be another action movie. And I think it seems like they heeded the complaints from Quantum of Solace and actually fixed it. So yeah, this is definitely, I still would say Casino Royale's the best of the Craig era ones, but this is definitely the second best. I hope Spectre maintains this. I've never seen it, so I'm going in blind with that one too. But I hope it maintains this tone. If you can just maintain this tone, we can be good. Because I don't necessarily think Craig is bad. I just think the last movie, he didn't get to show it. So this one, he actually got to show it. And the only thing I would say really as a negative is the Monty Penny. I think I would have recasted. She just did not do it for me. And I also don't really like the idea of Monty Penny being an agent either. I think Monty Penny, I'm not saying you have to do what she did in the originals and just be basically a secretary, but her being like shooting guns is a little weird to me, just being honest. But I get it, it's like a reboot essentially, so I understand. And even at this time, I'm not saying it because a woman can't be like agent, but it was just, I really felt like, I think more with her, I just felt like the actress they got just didn't, I think you could have did a bit better. And Severus, it's not her fault. They killed her off, I thought, way too fucking early. I think that scene where Silva kills her, I keep trying to say Raul Julia, but I'm like, no, that's a dude from Adam's Family. Yeah, Gomez. Yeah, not Raul Silva. Like, it's the same name. But yeah, Silva kills her fairly early. And I'm just like, I think you could have saved that scene closer to the end. And I also feel like Silva probably should have had a bigger death. He just gets thrown. Bond just throws a knife in his back and he's dead. It's like, okay. A little weak. Especially considering he kills M, basically. M's death was sad. I will say. They really executed that well. M was actually M in this one. They definitely fixed her from the last movie. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking in the last movie. M was borderline a villain in that movie. In this, she's straight up, like, she's M. Her chemistry with Bond is great. But, I mean, obviously it sucks she died, but it makes sense. I mean, she's been around since, at least this Judi Dench's version, since fucking GoldenEye. That was 1995. So that was a while. So I understand, like, it was time. And Ralph Fiennes being it makes sense. And if they let him be his character like he was in this movie, I'm cool with it. So, overall, out of 10, I'd probably give this one an 8.5. I really like this movie. I think this is I'm going to say it in my head, this is what Quantum of Solace, this is the true sequel to Casino Royale. I don't count Quantum of Solace. It really shows that they were just leaning too into the whole Jason Bourne thing. I think they definitely toned it down. I wonder if somebody told me, yo, y'all need to tone it down with this Jason Bourne shit. Because I'm going to say it, I don't really feel like with any of the action scenes, even like some of the fist fights, I was like, I didn't really feel like, okay, this is just Jason Bourne. They actually went back to it just being Bond. Even with some of the politics surrounding MI6, which I wish the movie did go into a little bit. Like, that Parliament scene where they're going to, the whole old school, golden age of espionage, talking about, like, we can't just be doing that and M defending it. I love that scene. I kind of wanted more of that a little bit, but overall, I love it. I definitely recommend this one. I'd almost say skip Quantum of Solace and just watch this one after Casino Royale. You know, in my mind, this is the true Casino Royale sequel. I look at basically what happened after what happens to Vesper. It's several years later now. He's just Bond. We all know, because I think that's what they should have did in the first place. But yeah, so tomorrow I'm gonna be reviewing Action Jackson with Carl Weathers. It has been a long time since I've seen that movie, but Carl Weathers, man, I think he's in general an underrated actor. I think, obviously everyone knows him as Apollo, but he's great in Predator. I think, even in, like, Happy Gilmore, even though that's more of a comedy, he's fucking great in that movie. But Action Jackson was a fun little 80s action. That's the most I remember. So, it's almost gonna be fun going in with that one blind. And it just, I saw, like, a post about it on Twitter. And I was thinking in my head, I tweeted this, like, I wanted more Carl Weathers, like, solo action films. And that had me thinking. And so I figured, okay, we'll just review this one. So it's been a while, but yeah. Because I think this was a fun little movie. So I'll be doing that tomorrow. And yeah, but let's get into Skyfall. So this one opens Bond and Monty Penny in Istanbul. We have a big chase scene. Which I thought was very good. Going through, like, this little town. Like, even the chase style is, like, compared to that opening in Quantum, which that chase scene, which was fine, but it felt like that was just like a Bourne chase scene. This actually felt like a classic Bond one. And then Monty Penny ends up accidentally shooting Bond. People think he's dead, and this is where we get the Skyfall intro. Say, I'm not a big Adele fan. I don't, like, actively, like, listen to her music or anything. But I do think this song was good. It had that, like, old Bond girl singing feel to it. Like, I can see this being played at, like, a casino, one of those old kind of 20s, 30s style bars. And I think that's what they were going for. So I'm like, this already just, like, immediately just already better than Quantum of Solace. I thought the Quantum of Solace song was weak. I like Alicia Keys, but it's just that song didn't fit. This one actually fit. So Bond's alive. M is in a lot of political stuff. And they're looking for Silva, who's been secretly basically setting up a bunch of murders. This is where Monty Penny, not Monty Penny, Bond, comes back from the dead. They basically use the fact that they think he's dead to his advantage. While this is going on, this is where Gareth, which is Ralph Fiennes' character, shows up and basically talks to M about, like, her allegiance to Bond. And it's so, because, she's going to be facing this the Parliament about, this whole espionage stuff. And I really like I said, I like that element in the movie. Would have liked it to have been explored a little bit more, but it was fine. This is also where Q was introduced, and Q was fucking awesome. Like, the moment we met him, just him and Bond bantering just was natural. It's like, this is the other problem, like, really, and I probably should have pointed this out in the review, but I think I wasn't thinking about it at the time, but then I was watching this movie. It really really made me think about like one of the other problems with that movie, with the last movie, was there was no real good side characters. In this one, you had Q, you had M, an actual M, Monty, Penny, like this whole. They actually brought in more of MI6. That was already the coolest thing. They introduced the Walter PBK, and it's like it just showed me you could have brought in Q last movie. But part of me thinks they probably didn't want to do it because they're like, we got to do this realistic thing and do it more like Jason Bourne. So we can't just get all these cool tech. And it's like, this one does it in a way where it doesn't feel all like quote unquote hokey, like they would have, that's what they were worried about. Like, no, Q was cool in this movie. He, granted, like, and it made more sense. Like, yeah, he's going to feel more like a almost borderline. He could be in like Mission Impossible. But it works here because I understand that's like one of those aspects I'm cool with modernizing, but it was still done in a way where he still felt like Q. He's not my favorite Q. I would probably still say my favorite Q is from, I would say, like the Brosnan era, a little bit, I guess, more / Brosnan. He was in that era. That's my favorite Q. But this Q is pretty good. I think his banter with Bond just immediately, the moment they meet. This is also where you meet Severus, who's Silva's mistress, who there's a lot of agents have been getting killed by Silva because Silva basically wants revenge on him for basically giving him up to the Chinese. And like I said, that's the other thing, the world building. I didn't really feel like the last one did a lot of world building. I didn't think about those words at the time, but when you think about it, thinking about it now, yeah, there wasn't a lot of world building in the last movie. This one definitely makes up for that, introducing, M, well, the environment around, like, what's going on with MI6 and what's going on with, like, what Parliament thinks of it. Q, being introduced, Silva's backstory, like, it's like you get a lot more in this film. Like, there's a lot more to this movie than the last one, where the last one was just kind of like I said, the plot was kind of all over the place. Like, shit kind of just happened in the last movie. Like, you didn't really feel like a sense of cohesion at all to the plot. Because that's what a movie should be, a good movie anyway, should be. Just in general. Obviously, not regardless of being Bond or not. Like, you have to have cohesion, and just the last one did. This one did. The plot actually flows. But, so this is where we meet, just one night while, Bond, does the deed with, Severus, they get taken by Silva's people, and this is where Silva gets introduced, and he's a pretty decent villain. He's obviously, like, at least he has a fucking impact compared to Green from the last movie. He actually has a presence about himself. He's not, like I said, he's not Mads Mikkelsen from Casino Royale good, but he's solid. He at least has an impact. I was a little wondering how, was kind of like, when I was watching when he first was introduced, I was a little bit, okay, where is this going? For me, he got better really once he got captured. That scene when he gets captured, yeah, after killing Severus, which I feel like this scene you could have did later on. Maybe before he even, he tries to kill M, or, obviously ends up doing it. But that's where I would have did that scene, I think. Because Severus, I think, was a way better. I guess she's kind of the Bond girl of the movie, but she gets killed pretty early. And it was sad, I will admit, it was still done well. I just think you could have did it a little later instead of doing it at this point in the movie. Then Bond manages to free himself, kill Silva's men, and take Silva hostage, or they, arrest him, and take him to this underground MI6 facility. To me, this is where Silva started kind of getting good. Like, I actually really liked his little diatribe when Bond's talking to him while he's in prison. So M has to leave for this Parliament hearing. And Q's trying to get into Silva's computer. But then it turns out, because they realize, Q who's really smart. I even like that scene when he's talking about like all these safety, like he has to get past these like safety measures for these for the fucking computer. He's like, he basically talks about like how I made it. I'm mad living, but like basically something like I made them. It was fucking hilarious. Like Q is genuinely like some of one. He watching him in this movie, it's like it made me like he should have been in the last movie. That's one of the things the last one was missing, was a character like him. Bond needs to always have a little bit of a character to bounce off of, and that was always Q in those movies. Even though him and Q aren't, they don't have a lot of scenes together because Q's like the tech guy, so he's not going to be involved in the feud, going in the field and shit. But but just the little scenes he has, it's like Bond needs characters like that, or Monty Penny, or even uh I'm gonna be honest, like um sorry guys, I don't know why my mind went blank for a second, but yeah, but even a character like Ralph Fiennes, I think obviously he becomes a new M. That's why I'm just gonna call him New M for the rest of the video, because his actual name doesn't really matter. I think it was Gareth or something. Like, he was a cool character though, just for like the little bit he saw. Granted, I thought he was gonna be a villain. I will admit, I was thinking he was gonna become a villain, but yeah, it's like Bond needed characters like that in the last movie. This one just really shows that. Like, it was like, oh my god, that's what was missing. Just that bond and just little companionship. And also, Craig in general in this movie, they let him have fun. Like, not just only the scenes when he's hooking up with the girl, like, they let him just in general, like, be Bond. Like, they let him show his charm. They didn't just have him be super serious, dude, the whole movie like he was in the last one. There was, like, only, like, one scene where he kind of got to show it. But I felt like in this movie, they're like, all right, but we're going to let you actually showcase it. Because I think Daniel Craig could be a good Bond. I don't know if I'd still say he's up there with, like, your Pierce Brosnan, or off Connery's number one, but, like, Pierce Brosnan after that, or even your Roger Moore's. But I think Craig could be a good one. I just think, unfortunately, he gets fucking, the last one didn't let him showcase it. So this one does. If they can just maintain that pace, I'll be honest, I don't think and I'm probably not. I think I want to go into Spectre just blind. So I don't even think I'm going to look at, like, reviews of what people think about it and shit. I think I might just go in that one blind compared to what I did with these last few. So it's like, I hope the next one just lets them continue this. If they just keep this pace and just let them be Bond, just have new villains every movie, cool. That's all it needs to be. Obviously, you're going to have little elements, like Timothy Dalton's Bond movies, Living Daylights, fucking License to Kill. Those were more kind of 80s action, because they came out in the late 80s. I think License to Kill is like 89, and Living Daylights is 87, so it was in that height of that 80s action star era. But like I said, Timothy Dalton was still James Bond. He wasn't like, okay, we're just gonna make him generic action guy. Like, no, they still had him be Bond, but in the style of maybe a little bit more like an 80s action style movie, because it was at that time. Even in the late 90s, like mid to late 90s with Pierce Brosnan, you still had that carryover from like the 80s a little bit, that style of action movie. So you still have that tone, but you still had Bond. And I think, unfortunately, like, not as much in Casino Royale, but definitely in the last movie, they were like, we're going to go modern, but we're not going to even have Bond be Bond. At least this one, they let him be it. Yeah, you still have your modernized elements. Like, Hugh, yeah, he felt like more like, kind of like, I guess if you know DC, right? Oracle, who kind of, when Batman is in, like, a place that Oracle has, like, the layout of the place, and she's the tech girl. That's what kind of Q is in this. Compared to, like, the other movies where Q just kind of creates the tech and that's it. So I'm kind of cool with that. They were like, okay, we're going to modernize him a bit, and he's going to also be helping with, like, computers and all the tech, and helping Bond when he's in, like, a place, and he can have, like, the feed or the outline or whatever. So it's like, that makes sense that they modernized him that way. But Q was still great. So, So this is where Silva, you know, basically hacks into MI6 because he basically wanted to be captured because Q realizes this. This is then when we have Q escaping. Then Bond chases him into the train station. I actually really this is probably my favorite sequence in the whole movie. I love that. So this whole sequence is banter with Q, but also like having to try to get Silva so posing as a cop. Get that the seat when he gets on the Bond gets on the elevator. He like jumps on the train, like in front where the engineer, where the engineer is, and fucking guy's like, oh, he's trying to get home. Like, there's little funny lines like that in the movie. So Bond manages to fail to catch. He nearly catches Silva, but Silva rigs an explosive, so the train basically can crash. So basically, it would be a distraction. Silva tries to make it to Parliament, so he can basically start trying to kill M. But yeah, we made a big shootout, and I'll admit this scene was pretty good too. Even before like Silva attacks, like the whole back and forth between M and the court. The court basically saying like we can't just be doing this old style espionage anymore, or they said golden age, but like this style of just keeping secrets from the people, like. And M basically goes into why it's important. Like I kind of wish we did get a little bit more of that because I actually really did dig that little plot line. But yeah, so but this really is just a scenario so you can set up M getting attacked. So yeah, Bond gets there, but unfortunately, Silva escapes. So Bond decides to go take M into hiding, and only leave a bread trail for certain people to find them. And he asks Q to help him. So they go into hiding into Bond's basically old house, and with his old keeper Kane. I could be getting his name wrong, but I did like that character's little banter because the guy didn't know that Bond's actually this agent. And like when Bond's like, there's even a scene where they're like shooting guns, and Bond just like does this crazy shot, and the guy's all surprised. I think it's a great movie. They rig little traps because this is where Silva attacks. We get a little scene of even M fucking up some dudes. Rigging like nails to like explode. Yeah. This was a fun little sequence. Bond taking some dudes out. But then Silva's people come, and that's when more, because they think they initially take them all out, but then more, because you start hearing a helicopter. Silva attacks the place. Bond rigs basically the house to explode, which ends up destroying the helicopter. But they think they killed Silva, but Silva survives, kidnaps him, but M gets wounded in a shootout. So Silva takes M and Kane. I could be getting his name wrong. I know I'm probably getting his name wrong. But I'll just say the groundskeeper, honestly, so I don't because I got his name wrong a couple times. Take him hostage, and I did like the little back and forth between him and Silva and M. Like M was really good. Like Judi Dench did a really good job with her performance in this movie. Because because this was her last one, so it makes sense. So I really do like that. Like they do, she really pulled it out because she knew this was gonna be her last one, so it makes sense. But Bond ends up killing Silva. I do wish we did get a little bit of a back and forth between Silva and Bond before he killed her. I don't know. I also think just him dying to a knife to the back was a little weak, especially just for a Bond bag. I'm not saying it needs to be some crazy over the top thing, but I also think just him getting thrown like a knife to the back was a little lame. But I did like the final words between Bond and M. That was really good. Like basically she dies in his arms. Like it's very sad. But then, so yeah, she has a funeral. Bond and Monty Penny have some words, and I did like the banter between the two of them in this scene. But then Gareth, Ralph Fiennes becomes the new M, basically asks Bond if he wants to come back, and he says with pleasure, basically. And then, the other thing that's better, they played the Bond music in the movie, compared to the last one where they basically played it in the fucking credits. Like, this one's just a massive improvement. Yeah, it sucks that the Aston Martin got destroyed. That was a little sad, but I did love this. I do love this movie. I actually think I'm gonna probably watch this one when I get back. If I do the Craig ones, so far I'm gonna do Casino Royale and definitely this one. We'll see about Spectre. I do not think I'll do No Time to Die. I already kind of know what happens, and it sounds horrible. Like, it's more of depressed Bond, and some of the story's bad. Also, the way Bond dies, I actually have seen that. I did see that scene, and no. You don't kill James Bond. You could have just did something different. Like, fuck it, man. Instead of killing him, you have Craig just go off in the sunset, and that version of Bond's done. That's all you had to do. But anyway, I'll talk about that more when we get closer to it. But yeah, Skyfall is great. I fucking love this movie. All around, the cast was awesome. I thought this was actually a genuinely funny movie at times. The action was great. Silva was a decent villain. Nothing, like, amazing, but not every Bond villain needs to be, like Sean Bean or Mads Mikkelsen or, Blofeld or fucking... Like, not every villain's gonna be that. So I'm cool if he's just decent, and I thought Silva was pretty decent. And there was some straight up, like, I love the scene, and like, the whole subway chase was awesome. Very well done. I actually think the music in the movie is pretty good. So yeah, this definitely is gonna be one I'm gonna watch more. I think Skyfall was really well done. It's like they understood the problems with the last movie. Anyway, but yeah, like, it's like they understood the problems from the last movie and they actually learned. So it's really all I could say. It's a good movie. So, and I'm interested. I hope they don't, like, do a situation with Spectre and, like, Ralph Fiennes is gone and they have recast it. I hope they don't do some shit. Because I actually do want to see Ralph Fiennes as them. I actually think he's a fucking... I think he, like, on paper, that's an amazing casting for M right there. And I think him and Craig could have some genuinely good chemistry. Judi Dench, to me, she's M. She's my M. But she, I thought her death was well done in this. It wasn't, like, just cheap and just felt like, oh, it was just done to get... No, it was actually well done. But that's really all I could say about this movie. So I heavily recommend it. Hopefully Spectre can continue this pace because, this was really good. So if they can continue just continue the pace and just make a good movie, if they could just keep it going, that's all you need to do. So anyway, tomorrow, Action Jackson review. And then Thursday, we'll be doing Equalizer 2. So we got 2 days of some dope action movies. I guess 3, technically, because this one, too. But anyway. Cheers, and then I'll talk to y'all later. I give Skyfall 8.5 out of 10. I really, really liked it. Especially that ending. The way he accepts, says, I'll come back. And the fucking music hits. It's so good. So anyway, guys, I'll talk to y'all later. Tomorrow, Action Jackson. Talk to y'all later. Peace.